Steve Harvey had hosted Family Feud for 35 years, and in that time he had heard countless stories about marriages, relationships, secrets, and surprises between spouses. But on a warm April afternoon in 2027, a 43-year-old man named Jason Mitchell would reveal what his wife had done behind his back in a way that would completely shock Steve and the entire studio, not with infidelity or betrayal as the setup might suggest, but with an act of love so profound, so selfless, and so medically heroic that it would leave everyone present in tears and transform what seemed like it might be a painful revelation into one of the most beautiful testaments to marital devotion ever shared on television. What began as an ominous-sounding introduction would become a story about sacrifice, survival, and the lengths we go to for those we love. Before we continue with Jason's revelation about what his wife did behind his back, if you're moved by these authentic stories about extraordinary acts of love, medical miracles made possible through sacrifice, and the depths of commitment that define true partnership, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. These stories remind us what love truly means when tested by life's greatest challenges. The Mitchell family from Portland, Oregon walked onto the Family Feud stage with an energy that was simultaneously joyful and emotional in a way that production staff couldn't quite identify. There were 5 of them competing: Jason, age 43, his wife Nicole, who was 41, their son Tyler, who was 15, Jason's sister Rebecca, who was 39, and Rebecca's husband Mark, who was 42. What was immediately noticeable was the way Jason kept looking at Nicole with an expression that mixed profound gratitude, lingering disbelief, and overwhelming love. Nicole, for her part, seemed to be radiating quiet pride and joy, occasionally touching Jason's arm as if to reassure herself he was really there. During the family introductions, Steve worked his way down the line with his characteristic warmth. When he reached Jason, Steve asked the standard questions about work and family. Jason's response was measured and thoughtful. "I'm a high school history teacher, Mr. Harvey. Been teaching for 19 years. Nicole and I have been married for 17 years, and we have our son Tyler, who's 15. I'm also a kidney transplant recipient. Received my new kidney 18 months ago." The mention of a kidney transplant immediately caught Steve's attention, as it always did when contestants shared significant medical histories. "Kidney transplant. That's serious business. I'm glad you're here and healthy. How are you doing now?" Jason's smile was radiant. "I'm doing incredibly well, Mr. Harvey. Better than I've been in years. The transplant saved my life. I was on dialysis for 3 years before getting the transplant, and it was destroying my quality of life, my health, my ability to be the husband and father I wanted to be. Getting that kidney gave me my life back." Steve nodded appreciatively. "That's wonderful. And I'm sure you're grateful to whoever donated that kidney to you. Living donor, or from someone who passed." This was where Jason's expression changed, becoming more emotional, and he glanced at Nicole before answering. "Living donor, Mr. Harvey. Someone who loved me enough to give me one of their kidneys. Actually, that's connected to something I'd like to share, if it's okay, about what my wife did behind my back." The phrase, "behind my back," created an immediate tension in the studio. Steve's expression shifted to concern mixed with curiosity. The audience fell quiet, uncertain about where this was heading. The setup suggested something potentially negative: secrets kept, actions taken without consent. But Jason's emotional tone didn't match that interpretation. "Mr. Harvey, can I tell you a story? Because I need people to understand what my wife did and why it's the most extraordinary thing anyone has ever done for me." Steve, his full attention now on Jason, nodded seriously. "Of course, Jason. This stage is yours. Share whatever you need to share." Jason took a breath, clearly preparing to share something deeply meaningful. 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. Both my kidneys were failing. The doctors said I would need dialysis to stay alive, and that eventually I'd need a kidney transplant. I started dialysis, which meant 3 days a week, 4 hours a day, hooked up to a machine that filtered my blood because my kidneys couldn't anymore. It was exhausting, debilitating. I lost my energy, my health declined, and I watched myself become a shadow of who I'd been. The studio was completely silent, everyone listening intently. Jason continued, "When you need a kidney transplant, You have two options: wait for a deceased donor kidney, which can take years and might never come, or find a living donor, someone willing to give you one of their kidneys. I was put on the transplant waiting list, but the wait times are measured in years, and living donors are rare because asking someone to undergo major surgery and give up an organ is an enormous ask. Jason's voice grew more emotional. I never asked anyone to be tested as a potential donor. I couldn't. The idea of asking someone, even family, to give up a kidney for me felt like too much, so I waited on the list, continuing dialysis, my health slowly deteriorating, hoping a deceased donor kidney would become available before it was too late. He paused, looking at Nicole with eyes full of tears. What I didn't know was that Nicole, my wife, was doing something behind my back. Without telling me, without asking my permission, she went and got tested to see if she was a match to be my kidney donor. She did all the testing, all the evaluations, all the psychological assessments, all of it in secret. She told me she was going to the gym, running errands, meeting friends, and instead she was at the hospital being evaluated as a potential donor. Steve's face showed understanding dawning. This wasn't a betrayal being revealed, but an act of love done in secret. Jason continued, Nicole knew I would never let her do it if I knew. I would have refused, would have said it was too risky, too much to ask, that I couldn't let her undergo major surgery and give up an organ for me, so she did everything behind my back to take away my ability to say no. Jason's voice broke completely. 18 months ago, Nicole sat me down and told me what she'd done. She said, Jason, I've been tested, and I'm a perfect match. My kidney function is excellent, I've been cleared medically and psychologically, and I'm donating my kidney to you. The surgery is scheduled for next month. This isn't up for discussion. I was shocked, terrified, grateful, angry that she'd put herself at risk. Every emotion all at once. But she was firm. She'd made the decision, done all the work, and now it was happening whether I liked it or not. The audience was already crying at the profound love being described. Steve stood with his hand over his mouth, visibly moved. Jason pressed on. I tried to talk her out of it. I told her it was too dangerous, that something could go wrong, that I couldn't live with myself if she was harmed trying to save me. But Nicole said something I'll never forget. She said, Jason, you're dying slowly on dialysis. Your quality of life is gone. Our son is watching his father fade away. I have 2 healthy kidneys, and I only need one. If I can save your life and give you back your health, how could I not do it? How could I live with myself knowing I could have helped and chose not to? Jason looked directly at Steve and the cameras. So 18 months ago, Nicole and I had simultaneous surgeries. Doctors removed one of her kidneys and transplanted it into me. My wife gave me one of her organs. She underwent major surgery, gave up part of her body, took on all the risks of surgery and of living with one kidney for the rest of her life, all to save me. She did this behind my back so I couldn't stop her, and it's the most incredible act of love I've ever experienced or even heard of. The revelation hit the studio with overwhelming emotional force. This wasn't a betrayal or a secret kept maliciously. This was a woman who loved her husband so much that she went behind his back to save his life, knowing he would try to stop her if he knew. The audience erupted not in applause but in audible sobs, people crying at the beauty and selflessness of what Nicole had done. Steve Harvey stood frozen, tears streaming down his face, looking between Jason and Nicole with an expression of awe. When he finally found his voice, it was thick with emotion. Nicole, Mrs. Mitchell, you gave your husband one of your kidneys. You went through all the testing and evaluation in secret, scheduled surgery without his knowledge, and then presented it to him as a done deal so he couldn't refuse. You saved his life by taking the choice away from him. That is, I don't even have words for how extraordinary that is. Nicole, who had been quietly crying throughout Jason's story, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. Mr. Harvey, I know it sounds dramatic, but I didn't feel like I had a choice, not in the sense that Jason forced me, or that I resented doing it, but in the sense that once I realized I could save him, how could I not? How could I watch my husband die slowly when I had the power to save him? Giving him my kidney wasn't a sacrifice. It was the most obvious decision I've ever made. She continued, I did it behind his back because I knew Jason. I knew he would try to protect me even at the cost of his own life. He would refuse to let me take the risk, would insist he could wait for a deceased donor kidney, even if waiting meant years more of suffering or potentially dying. So I took the decision out of his hands. I did all the work in secret, and by the time I told him, it was too far along for him to stop it. I had to go behind his back because that was the only way to save the man I love. Tyler, their 15-year-old son, spoke up with tears in his eyes. Mr. Harvey, I watched my dad get sicker for 3 years. He was tired all the time, couldn't do things with me like he used to, missed school events because he was at dialysis. I was scared I was going to lose him. When Mom told us what she was going to do, she told me before she told Dad because she needed my support. I was scared because I didn't want to lose her either. But I also knew she was right, that this was the only way to save Dad. Tyler continued, the day of the surgery was the scariest day of my life. Both my parents were in surgery at the same time. Aunt Rebecca and Uncle Mark were with me, but I was terrified. What if something went wrong? What if I lost one or both of them? But everything went perfectly, and seeing my dad healthy again, seeing him with energy and strength, being able to do things together again, that's because Mom gave him her kidney. She saved him. She's a hero. Rebecca, Jason's sister, added her perspective. When Nicole told me what she was planning, I was shocked and awed in equal measure. I'm Jason's sister, and I hadn't even considered being tested as a donor. I was too scared, too focused on my own life. But Nicole, without hesitation, got tested and committed to donating. She showed me what real love looks like, what real commitment means. She set a standard for devotion that I can only aspire to. Steve, still visibly emotional, addressed Jason again. So when you said your wife did something behind your back, you were talking about the most selfless, loving act I've ever heard of. She literally gave you part of her body to save your life, and she did it in secret so you couldn't stop her out of misguided protectiveness. Jason, how do you even begin to process that level of love and sacrifice? Jason's response was immediate and passionate. Mr. Harvey, I wake up every morning grateful. I look at Nicole and I'm overwhelmed by what she did for me. She saved my life. She gave me my health back. She gave our son his father back. She did it knowing the risks, knowing she'd live the rest of her life with one kidney, knowing she could have said no and no one would have blamed her. Every day I'm alive, every moment I'm healthy and able to be present for my family, exists because my wife loved me enough to give me her kidney. Jason looked at Nicole with profound emotion. I tried to stop her when I found out. I begged her not to do it, told her I'd rather die than put her at risk. But she wouldn't listen. She'd already made the decision, and she was going to follow through no matter what I said. At the time, I was terrified and angry that she'd taken such a risk. But now, living with her kidney inside me, healthy and strong in a way I haven't been in years, I understand that her going behind my back was the greatest gift she could have given me. Not just the kidney, but the gift of not having to feel guilty about accepting it, because she'd made the decision before I could refuse. Steve turned to Nicole again. Mrs. Mitchell, Nicole, I need to ask you something. When you made the decision to donate your kidney, when you were going through all that testing and preparation in secret, were you scared? Did you have doubts? Nicole's answer was honest and thoughtful. Of course I was scared. Major surgery is scary. Living with one kidney for the rest of my life is a real sacrifice. There are restrictions, risks, things I have to be careful about now. And yes, I had moments of doubt, moments where I wondered if I was being foolish or reckless. She continued, but every time I had those doubts I would come home and see Jason. I'd see him exhausted from dialysis, struggling to do basic things, watching our son grow up but not having the energy to fully participate. I'd see the life being drained out of the man I love, and I knew that if I could stop that, if I could give him back his health and his life, I had to do it. The fear and the sacrifice felt small compared to the alternative of watching him suffer and possibly die. Nicole's voice grew stronger. And I want to be clear about something. I didn't donate my kidney because I felt obligated or because I thought it was expected of me as a wife. I did it because I genuinely wanted to, because the idea of having the power to save Jason and not using it was unbearable. If I could go back and make the decision again, I would make the same choice every single time. Giving Jason my kidney was a privilege, not a burden. Steve was openly weeping now, not even trying to hide his tears. He addressed the audience and cameras directly. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing here is a love story unlike anything I've ever encountered. Nicole Mitchell went behind her husband's back, not to betray him, but to save him. She secretly got tested as a kidney donor, went through months of evaluation, scheduled surgery, and then presented it to Jason as a done deal so he couldn't refuse out of protectiveness. She gave him one of her organs, underwent major surgery, and changed her own life permanently, all because she loved him too much to watch him die when she had the power to save him. Steve continued, his voice breaking repeatedly. This is what love looks like when it's tested by life's greatest challenges. This is what commitment means when it costs you something real. This is what in sickness and in health actually requires. Not just standing by someone who's sick, but being willing to sacrifice your own body, your own health, your own safety to save them if you can. Nicole, you are extraordinary. Jason, you are blessed beyond measure. And your story needs to be heard by everyone who wonders what real love looks like. The game proceeded, but it was transformed by what had been shared. The opposing family, the Chen family from California, played with visible emotion, clearly moved by the Mitchells' story. The audience cheered for every answer the Mitchells gave, celebrating not just their gameplay but their presence, their survival, their love story. When Jason came to the podium for his turn, Steve paused before asking the question. Jason, I have to say, knowing that you're standing here healthy because your wife gave you her kidney, seeing how grateful you are, witnessing the love between you two, this is one of the most beautiful things I've experienced in 35 years of hosting this show. You and Nicole have reminded all of us what marriage can be at its best. The Mitchell family won their game and advanced to fast money. When Nicole stepped up to play her portion, Steve commented, Nicole, you're playing Family Feud with a kidney that used to be in your body and is now in your husband's body, keeping him alive. That's the most remarkable thing anyone has ever brought to this stage. Nicole laughed through her tears. When you put it that way, Mr. Harvey, it does sound pretty remarkable, but mostly it just feels like loving my husband and being grateful we both survived the surgery and that it worked. They won the 20,000, and the celebration that followed was more about the Mitchell family's survival story than about the game show victory. Steve embraced both Jason and Nicole, and in a rare moment, he spoke directly about his own emotions. I have to tell you both something. In 35 years of hosting this show, I've heard thousands of stories. But your story, Nicole secretly donating her kidney to save Jason's life, doing it behind his back so he couldn't refuse, this is the most profound expression of love I've ever encountered. You've moved me in a way I can't fully articulate. Thank you for sharing your story, for reminding all of us what love truly means, and for being living proof that miracles happen through human compassion and sacrifice. When the episode aired 12 weeks later, the response was extraordinary and deeply moving. Within 48 hours, the clip of Jason revealing that Nicole had donated her kidney behind his back had been viewed over 2.8 billion times globally. But more significantly, organ donation organizations reported unprecedented surges in people registering as potential living donors and deceased donor registry sign-ups. The National Kidney Foundation reported that in the 2 weeks following the episode's airing, living kidney donor inquiries increased by over 700%. Thousands of people who had been considering donation but were hesitant or scared were inspired by Nicole's example to move forward with testing. Several hundred actual living kidney donations were directly attributed to people being inspired by the Mitchell's story. Nicole Mitchell's story has done more to promote living kidney donation than any public awareness campaign we've ever run, a Kidney Foundation spokesperson explained. Seeing a real person who donated to their spouse, hearing her talk about why she did it and what it meant, and seeing Jason healthy and thriving as a result, that made living donation real and accessible in a way that statistics and medical information never could. Nicole has literally saved lives beyond Jason's through her willingness to share their story. Medical professionals, who work with transplant patients, praised the Mitchells' openness about both the medical realities and the emotional dimensions of living donation. Nicole was honest about the risks, the permanence of living with one kidney, and her fears, one transplant surgeon noted. But she was also clear about why she felt it was worth it, about the profound impact it had on Jason's quality of life, and about her lack of regret. That kind of balanced, honest portrayal helps potential donors make informed decisions. The episode also sparked important conversations about the ethics of Nicole's approach, doing the evaluation in secret and presenting it to Jason as a fait accompli. Medical ethicists generally supported Nicole's decision while acknowledging the complexity. Ideally, living donation involves extensive discussion between potential donor and recipient, one ethicist explained. But Nicole knew Jason would refuse out of protectiveness, and she had every right to make decisions about her own body. Her approach ensured Jason benefited from a donation he desperately needed, but would have refused. It's ethically complex but ultimately defensible given the circumstances. 6 months after the episode aired, Jason and Nicole appeared on Steve Harvey's talk show for an extended conversation about their journey. Jason shared updates on his health. "I'm thriving. My kidney function is perfect. Nicole's kidney has adapted beautifully to my body. I have energy I haven't had in years. I'm fully present for my son's high school years in a way I couldn't be when I was on dialysis. I'm living a completely normal life, and it's all because of Nicole's kidney working inside me every moment of every day." Nicole shared her experience of recovery and life with one kidney. "The surgery and recovery were difficult. I won't minimize that. It took months to fully recover, and I do have to be careful about certain things now. I stay hydrated, avoid certain medications, monitor my remaining kidneys' function regularly. But honestly, the restrictions are minor compared to what I gained. I gained my husband's health, our son's father, my partner's presence in our lives. I would make the same choice 1,000 times over." Tyler, now 16, shared how his parents' experience shaped his perspective. "Watching Mom donate her kidney to Dad taught me what real love looks like. It's not just feelings or words, it's sacrifice, action, putting someone else's needs above your own comfort or safety. I want to find a love like my parents have someday, and I want to be the kind of person who would do for someone else what Mom did for Dad." 1 year after their Family Feud appearance, the Mitchells had become advocates for living kidney donation, sharing their story at medical conferences, kidney foundation events, and support groups. They'd connected with dozens of other donor-recipient couples, providing support and encouragement to those considering living donation. "Our story resonated with people in ways we never expected," Jason reflected. "We've heard from hundreds of people who were inspired to get tested as donors, from recipients who found living donors after their families saw our episode, and from medical professionals who said our story helped them better support their patients through the donation process. If sharing our experience helps even one person receive a life-saving transplant, it's worth any loss of privacy." Nicole added, "People often ask me if I regret donating, if living with one kidney is harder than I expected, if I would do it again knowing what I know now. My answer is always the same: I have zero regrets. Yes, recovery was hard. Yes, there are restrictions I'll live with forever. But every time I look at Jason healthy and strong, every time I watch him play basketball with Tyler or join me for a hike or simply be fully present in our lives, I'm reminded that giving him my kidney was the best decision I ever made. How could I regret saving the life of the man I love?" 3 years after the transplant, both Jason and Nicole remained healthy, with excellent kidney function and no complications. They'd helped facilitate over 50 living kidney donations by connecting potential donors with recipients, sharing their story, and providing support through the process. Their advocacy had contributed to increased awareness and reduced stigma around living donation. "Nicole going behind my back to donate her kidney saved my life in the most literal sense," Jason said in a 3rd anniversary interview. "But it also taught me profound lessons about love, sacrifice, and what it means to truly partner with someone through life's challenges. I learned that sometimes accepting help, accepting sacrifice, accepting profound gifts from others is its own form of strength. I learned that my wife's love for me is deeper and more powerful than I ever fully appreciated, and I learned that every day I'm alive and healthy is a gift that I need to honor by living fully and well. If Jason Mitchell's revelation that his wife Nicole went behind his back to secretly get tested, evaluated, and scheduled to donate one of her kidneys to save his life, doing it in secret so he couldn't refuse out of protectiveness, has moved you, inspired you to consider organ donation, or reminded you what love looks like when tested by life's greatest challenges, please take a moment now to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share this story with anyone considering living organ donation, with families facing kidney disease who need to know that options exist, and with everyone who needs to be reminded that love sometimes requires sacrifice that costs us something real. Nicole's willingness to undergo major surgery and permanently give up an organ to save Jason's profound gratitude and commitment to honoring that gift, and their advocacy helping others access life-saving transplants, have literally saved lives beyond their own and expanded understanding of what living donation can mean. Your engagement helps ensure this powerful message about love, sacrifice, and the gift of life reaches more people who need to hear it. The story of Nicole Mitchell secretly getting tested and approved to donate her kidney to her husband Jason, doing all the evaluation behind his back, and then presenting it as a done deal so he couldn't refuse, stands as one of the most profound expressions of marital love ever shared. Her understanding that Jason would try to protect her even at the cost of his own life, and her decision to take that choice away from him by doing everything in secret, demonstrated both deep knowledge of her partner and unwavering commitment to his survival. Jason's journey from shock and fear when he learned what Nicole had done, to profound gratitude as he experienced restored health, to daily awareness that he's alive because of his wife's sacrifice, revealed the complexity of accepting such a profound gift. Their story reminds us that love isn't just feelings or words but action and sacrifice, that marriage at its best means being willing to give profoundly of ourselves for our partner's well-being, that accepting help and sacrifice from others requires its own form of courage, and that one person's decision to donate can ripple outward to save many lives by inspiring others to do the same. Nicole and Jason Mitchell's love story, with its twist of her going behind his back to save his life rather than betray him, stands as a testament to what commitment truly means when tested by the ultimate stakes of life and death.